came to play. There's a price to pay.
4 for 4 for 52 yards. Clay on first and 10. Taylor's got all day to throw. It's Clay. Already his third catch. Clay still going. Dances inside the 5. And the former Dolphin coming home into the end zone from 25 yards out.
Time to throw. Finds Amari Cooper. Slipping away at the 36. Cooper spins inside the 20. Amari Cooper leads the Raiders into the red zone again.
43 with San Diego. Peterson, stiff arm, outside. Peterson! Adrian Peterson cutting to the clear. Peterson is gone. Touchdown Vikings.
Now when you think about the third down, Ryan pass caught Julio Jones. Shakes up
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Fantasy Life, week number 4. Hope all those Andrew Luck owners out there aren't pressing that panic button just yet. Again, I'm the big AC Andy Schreier, as you can see right there, aka 401 crew on DraftKings. We had what I thought was a great week in DraftKings. We put up 160 points in both leagues, and it wasn't enough. Usually that's a lock for a cash in the Millionaire Maker, but now the min cash was about a 180, I believe, 185, something like that. So, yeah, crazy week in fantasy football, crazy week. We are doing the 2 Millionaire Makers again. We're putting in a couple of $20 entries in that, as you can see. We're at 131 right now for the roll for DraftKings. So, yeah, we're going back at it. We're going to get that big cash. I feel confident about it moving forward. Let's talk about my hits and misses for week 3. I thought I did pretty good. A couple of misses, though. Number 1, Isaiah Crowell. I was talking all about the crowbar. He only had 10 rushes for 36 yards, no catches against an awful Oakland Raiders defense. And it did look like he had like 4 or 5 goal line touches. It looks like he was going to get the end zone, but no, stuffed every single time, again, from an awful Oakland Raiders defense. So, huge disappointment there, along with me saying start the Carolina Panthers D. They allowed 22 points last week against the Saints. They did have a couple of turnovers. They had an interception and a fumble recovery, but they did allow that 22 points. They were not nearly as much as a stud as I thought they would be. Little note, though, Panthers did get Jared Allen, defensive lineman Jared Allen, from the Bears, so that could be something big for them in the future. It could be the Panthers a little bit more relevant in the fantasy defensive department, but yeah, last week, not big. Did have some hits, though. My boy, Kendall Wright, talked about him preseason, talked about him this season. 7 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. The connection is there with Super Mariota. You can just see it. It's hands down his most reliable option. Like I said, I love this guy preseason. I talked him up. I talked about him countless times week after in my week video last week and everything. Love him moving forward. He has a bye this week, so you can't start him this week, but I like him moving forward. He will be that consistent option each and every week for you. So like Kendall Wright a lot moving forward. Also, me telling you to bench Matt Stafford and Roddy White. Matt Stafford, 282 in the air, 1 touchdown, but 3 turnovers as expected. 2 picks and a fumbles. Denver D is the real thing. I'm avoiding teams facing any offensive players facing Denver's D. They look like the real thing. Stafford struggled as expected. Roddy White's a back-to-back goose eggs. Unbelievable. Like I said, Leonard Hankerson seems to be the clear number 2 option in Atlanta. Roddy White should be almost considered droppable in all leagues. The only reason why you might want to hold on to Roddy White because Julio Jones does seem to get hurt each and every year. So if he goes down, Roddy White's value definitely increases. So that literally might be the only reason why Julio Jones might be the fantasy player of the year this year, to be honest. He's been absolutely ridiculous. Let's talk about my stardom and situms for week number 4. Let's start with the running back position. My first guy I'm really liking a lot this week, Danny Woodhead against Cleveland. He struggled last week against Minnesota, unfortunately, but he is facing a Cleveland defense that is awful against the run, allowing over 32 points to Oakland running backs last week, including Latavius Murray. Big week by Latavius Murray. I'm liking Woodhead a lot this week. He seems to surprisingly be the goal line back, too, despite his size in the red zone. He seems to be getting a lot of the goal line touches. And he does catch his pass. He's caught 13 balls so far for 130 yards this season so far. So I think he'll do very well against a very weak Browns defense this week. Woodhead is an RB2 for me this week, absolutely. I'm also liking Carlos Williams. Going to be talking a little bit more about this guy later on, too. Against the Giants. Giants struggle defensively big time. He had over 100 yards and a touchdown against Miami last week. The Giants are giving up over 26 points a week to the running back position. The Buffalo offense is sneaky good. I mean, they don't jump off the page, but they're sneaky good. They're pretty productive. I'm liking Carlos Williams, again, as an RB2 in a flex play this week. I'm also liking Tyrod Taylor, T-Mobile, in the quarterback position. Again, facing the Giants. Same thing here. Giants really bad defensively, giving up a lot of points to the to offenses on the opposite team. T-Mobile just seems to put up numbers each and every week, both in the air and on the ground. That's why I'm liking T-Mobile. Giants haven't faced that mobile that mobile quarterback yet. They just haven't, like T-Mobile is. He could excel in this game a great deal. If you lost Big Ben, if you lost Romo, if Drew Brees isn't playing this week, which it looks like he might not, he can easily start for you with confidence. And I'm liking him also in my dailies this week, too. T-Mobile, like him a lot against the Giants. Now, some guys that I definitely going to try to avoid. Number one on my list, well, it's a couple of people. Anyone on the Vikings not named Adrian Peterson against Denver. Again, Denver's defense is the real thing. You can never, ever sit Adrian Peterson. You just can't do it. But Teddy Bridgewater, Kyle Rudolph, Mike Wallace, no thank you. Not for me. No thank you. I'm not starting them. Not only are they facing a great defense, but they haven't been that productive anyways. Teddy has only thrown one touchdown in his past 3 games, and it was to Kyle Rudolph. No touchdowns for Mike Wallace all season long. And like I said, on top of that, Denver is literally the number 1 defense against quarterbacks and receivers this year. No thank you. They're hitting the bench for me. Not even a desperation play. I'd rather start Cole Beasley from Dallas this week, to be honest. Very not even remote option for me. Anyone not named Adrian Peterson on the Minnesota Vikings. Another guy who I am benching, and this might not be a popular decision, Todd Gurley against the Arizona Cardinals. Gurley owners were excited last week. They got excited. He got some action against the Steelers, only to get royally disappointed. He only had 6 carries, 9 yards, 1 catch for 5 yards, and it's only going to get worse, honestly, for Gurley owners. They're facing Arizona. In Arizona, a team that is only allowing 19 points a week to running backs. And this is a team that only allowed 9 points to Carlos Hyde last week. I know fantasy owners really want to start Gurley. They're excited. They're waiting for this young stud to come out that everyone's been talking about. But I suggest waiting week. And the Rams are waiting too. They're slowly bringing in Gurley here. And Arizona is just too good defensively. You really got to think about that. Arguably the best team in the NFC right now, the Arizona Cardinals. I think Gurley is in desperation play at best this week. A desperation play at best if you're just royally out of all options. I guess roll with Gurley, but I'm avoiding him, again, at all costs. Let's talk about my waiver wire pickups of the week. Number 1 on my list, only 16% owned in ESPN fantasy leagues. Rashard Matthews from Miami, the wide receiver. He has 16 catches in 3 games, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. After Jarvis Landry, he is the only spark in that Miami Dolphins offense. Revis could be all over Rashard Matthews. He really could be. He could be all over Landry as well. You don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but watch for Rashard Matthews to continue to excel from here on forward. If he struggles against the Jets, don't be discouraged. I think he still is definitely worth the pickup. You can't wait. Again, only 16% owned. That's crazy. Another guy I like a lot, Dallas Cowboys running back Lance Dunbar. Lance the Dance had 10 catches, 100 yards last week against Atlanta. He does do the return stuff as well. He's only 13% owned. Lance Dunbar, only 13% owned. I'd rather start him than Darren McFadden. I really would. I think he's the second best option in the running game, to be honest. He has 21 catches in 3 games. That is a lot for a running back. 21 catches in 3 games. He seems to have that Darren Sproles role in Dallas. I like him against the Saints a lot this week. I'm trying to start him at all costs in my daily leagues if I can. I'm liking Lance Dunbar. Again, only 13% owned. Try and go get him. Another guy I'm talking about, these next 2 guys I already talked about, T-Mobile, Tyrod Taylor, only 44% owned in ESPN leagues. He has 7 touchdowns in the past 3 games combined. He also has 96 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown as well. He has a good couple of matches coming up this week against the Giants and then the Titans after that. If you need the help at quarterback, and I named some scenarios, if you have Romo, the Big Ben, Drew Brees, things like that, he is definitely a guy that you could slide in right now. Another guy I'm talking about, running back, we already talked about him, Carlos Williams, only 24% owned. Somehow. He has a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. He had 12 rushes for 110 yards against Miami last week. Wish he catches some more passes. He only has 2 catches in his last 3 games combined. That's not something I necessarily look for. But it does appear he definitely has a productive role in this Buffalo Bills offense. They're finding a way to get him touches. He's very productive with his carries. Again, I talked about him before. Definitely worth a pickup. Only 24% owned. That is just crazy. You got to get him if he's in your waiver wire. Carlos Williams. So, yeah, those are the 4 guys I am trying to get in my waiver pool. In regards to defenses, for those fantasy owners that stream defenses this week, defense that is not widely owned right now is the Green Bay Packers against San Francisco. Packers seem to be getting to the quarterback better and better each and every week. They're getting that pass rush. But more importantly, Colin Kaepernick is trash. He is god-awful. You saw him against the Cardinals. First 2 passes were for touchdowns to the other team. So, yeah, Colin Kaepernick, not very good. You want to start the Green Bay defense if you are streaming your defenses each and every week. So I'm liking the Packers as a cheap play this week as well. I got a couple of questions of the week that came my way. Number 1 I got on the list, and I'm getting this each and every week. What's your thoughts on Ronnie Hillman? Specifically, would you start Ronnie Hillman over a guy like Bishop Sankey, DeMarco Murray this week? I don't think you could start him over DeMarco Murray if DeMarco Murray's playing. If he's not playing, then obviously Bishop Sankey, yeah. I'm definitely starting Ronnie Hillman over Bishop Sankey again. They seem to be rolling with the hot hand in Denver, and we know what that starting running back in Denver can do. So, yeah, I do like Ronnie Hillman a lot this week moving forward. I think he's definitely a viable option as a flex play. So, yeah, Ronnie Hillman definitely someone I would start over Bishop Sankey, and if Murray doesn't play, obviously. Another question I got, interesting question. Would I take a flyer on rookie wide receivers Devontae Parker from Miami or Brashad Perriman from Baltimore? Let's talk about Devontae Parker first. Parker had 3 catches last week on 7 targets. Nice to see him get more involved in the Miami offense. The guy Rashad Matthews we thought was going to be Devontae Parker. All the production we're seeing of Rashad Matthews we thought would be Devontae Parker. We're not. And to be honest, the 3 catches he did that could be because it was a blowout and they had to throw the ball. I don't know if he's worth a roster stash. In redraft leagues, I probably wouldn't. In dynasty leagues, yes, I do like him moving forward. Definitely worth a roster stash. But in regards to redraft leagues, I'm not quite sure if I'm going Devontae Parker. I'm probably leading against that. The clear 1-2 there seems to be Jarvis Landry and Rashard Matthews. Let's talk about the other guy, though, Brashad Perriman from Baltimore. This is a guy I am a little bit more excited about. Looks like he'll be coming back from injury either this week or next week. If it's not this week, it's because they have a Thursday night game, so it might not be this week. Steve Smith needs a counterpart. He needs someone across from him that has skill. Mr. Invisible. Kamir Aiken is the best option? Come on. No way. They need a guy. This guy's the rookie's 6'2". He's full of athletic ability. Once he comes back healthy, I really like him to possibly, make an impact right away. In Dynasty and Keeper Leagues, absolutely, this is a guy I'm eyeing. In redraft leagues, maybe for that second half push, I don't know, but I like his stock a lot more than Devontae Parker moving forward. So, yeah, they need that guy that replaced Torrey Smith as that big play guy. Perriman could be it. Could be it. The 6'2" athlete, just really good athlete, big play capability written all over him. Like him moving forward a lot. Again, in Keeper and Dynasty Leagues especially, I do like him a lot. All right, let's talk about the daily stuff now. Let's talk about our daily fantasy. Like I showed you earlier, I'm at 131 right now. We're going to be doing 2 more Millionaire Makers. A lot of people wanted to go over my lineups last week. My lineups last week. We had 2 pretty good ones, like I said. Let's talk about my first one, the one that didn't score as much. 157 was the total. I had Carson Palmer there. He had a pretty good game. Lev Bell, great as expected. James Starks was a big letdown. Didn't nearly get enough touches as I thought he would. Antonio Brown, big game, as per usual. Julian Edelman, whistled a little bit more given the score, but it was still pretty good. Allen Robinson, that was disappointed. I know he got double digits, but we were expecting way more, especially given the score. The game went just like how we thought it would, right? We thought it was going to be a high-scoring game, that Jackson was going to have to come back. A lot of garbage time. He didn't get the garbage time. It was Allen Hurns. So, Allen Robinson was a disappointment there. Coby Fleener, not what we were expecting there. I even took out, I think, Greg Olsen and put in Coby Fleener, which, Greg Olsen had a monster game. And then Kendall Ray had a big min like we thought in the Seahawks. I was all in on the Seattle Seahawks this week. So 157, normally a good score, normally probably a min cash, but no, not this week. Not going to work it out. The other lineup we had rolling was... if I can get up real quick. We had Russell Wilson as our quarterback. Again, we scored over 160 points in this particular one right here. Russell Wilson was our quarterback for this particular lineup. I thought he was going to get a lot more action on the ground, a lot more rushing yards, but as you can see, he just clearly did not. Jamal Charles did have a monster game, though. James Starks was a letdown. Kenny Britt, big surprise game. That was one of my sleepers this week. He put up a 20 spots, 7 catches, 100 yards. Antonio Brown, like we said, Allen Robinson, like we said, Gronk. He had 100 yards, but for the money we spent on Gronk, we're expecting a lot more, especially given the score, than just 17 points. Darren Sproles had a big game. That guy just seems to show up each and every week one way or another. Darren Sproles was big, and then, like I said, all in Seattle. So 164 was our total score in that. Normally I'm in cash, not this week. It was an absolute crazy week in regards to fantasy. So, let's talk about the lineups we're going to roll with this week. First lineup I'm going to show you is my lineup where I spent a little bit more on quarterback. We're going to go Peyton Manning, Emmanuel Sanders combo. Peyton Manning, $7,200, liking that this week against Minnesota in Denver. Could be a lot of points there for Denver. He looks like Peyton Manning is clicking, which is a good sign. Going a little cheap options here with Carlos Williams and Danny Woodhead. I talked about him earlier. $3,400, $4,600 for those two. I think it's just too much value right there to ignore. So, liking them as my running backs. I'm going to spend the money on Amari Cooper. I am all in on Amari Cooper this week. He just seems to be getting used each and every week, and he hasn't even been scoring touchdowns, and he's still getting the points. So I'm liking Amari Cooper, liking Pierre Garçon as well. I think Philly and Washington can put up a lot of points there. So I'm liking Pierre Garçon, king of garbage time. Emmanuel Sanders, we're going the Peyton Manning, Emmanuel Sanders combo right there for $7,700. Jordan Reed, want to get Pierre Garçon at Jordan Reed. I think there's going to be a decent amount of passing yards in that game. And those are the only options for Kirk Cousins. So I'm liking those two. And then Randall Cobb, $7,400 paying the yards. We all saw Monday Night Football. Guy's just an absolute beast. If Devontae Adams is out, Randall Cobb could be just the best option it definitely is the best option. Could be just get a couple more targets his way from Aaron Rodgers. So Randall Cobb, $7,400, liking that price tag a lot. And I'm all in on the Broncos defense, special teams this week against Minnesota. Liking them a lot. The other lineup I'm going to go with is T-Mobile as my quarterback. Again, 56 bucks for T-Mobile this week. I'm liking him as a cheap play for quarterback. I'm going to spend some money on Frank Gore and Carlos Hyde this week, 4,700, 5,100. Frank Gore seems to be the only reliable source of offense in Indy. Jacksonville just let up 3 rushing touchdowns to LeGarrette Blount, so I think Frank Gore could be used a lot. Carlos Hyde, Green Bay did make Jamal Charles look like an all-star because he is an all-star, and Jamal Charles is a lot better than Carlos Hyde, but I think Carlos Hyde is going to run a lot. They're not going to be able to pass on Green Bay. I think that's going to be the main source of offense. And last time Carlos Hyde was home, he had a big game in his home opener, so like Carlos Hyde, I think we're going to get week 1 numbers from Carlos Hyde this week. For the receiving core, like I said, Amari Cooper, I'm all in on him. I'm also liking Keenan Allen a lot. Seems to be getting a lot of targets, a lot of receptions. Hopefully Joe Hayden isn't all over Keenan Allen. Hopefully it's splitting the time between him and Stevie Johnson, but still, I'm liking Keenan Allen there. They're home. I think San Diego's going to throw a lot, so liking Keenan Allen. Jordan Matthews, I talked about the Washington-Philly game with Jordan Reed and Pierre Garçon. I think it's going to be high scoring, so I'm liking Jordan Matthews for 6,600. The guy is PPR gold. I'm also liking Tyler Eifert. I think he is the best red zone option on that team when they're inside the 30, so I'm liking Tyler Eifert. He put up a goose egg last week, so a lot of people might avoid him. So I think he's a good play this week, $4,600. And then Allen Robinson. I think Jacksonville is going to throw a lot against Indy. Indy clearly gets exposed in the secondary, so I'm liking Allen Robinson a lot. Same logic in regards to Kendall Wright last week. Allen Robinson this week against Indy. I think Indy's secondary is just trash. I think Allen Robinson's going to be able to expose that. And like I said, all in on the Denver Broncos DST. All right, folks, that's going to be my lineup of this week for Daily. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching the Fantasy Life. As always, loving the support. Send your questions, send your emails, things like that to me. Messages on Facebook, YouTube, all the good stuff. So appreciate you watching each and every week. Until then, my name's the Big AC. Thanks for watching. Good luck on the Fantasy Gridiron, football fans. Take care.